Arturo González Vargas is a young man with 2 last names, and during his short time in the United States has made quite a name for himself. Earlier this year, he was named a Fellow of the American Express Aspen Institute Academy and the Young Professional of the Year by the West Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. To even land here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, 18 months ago, took some doing when he was named an Atlas C.A.R.E. Fellow, beating out 98% of fellow applicants. But really, I've dropped enough names. Let me simply welcome Arturo González Vargas. Arturo, my friend, welcome to Feel Like You Belong.
Thank you for having me, Alan.
So what is this deal? You've got 2 last names. How does that work? Tell our English-speaking friends what that's about.
Well, it has to do, I can hear my mother talking to me behind here, and she says, you have a father, but you have a mother too, okay? So whenever we have in Mexico, we always have 2 last names, and when we use both, first is our paternal, and then our maternal, but it's very important to always remember your mother. She's there too. My mom will always remind me, I was there too, you know? So I'm like, yeah, no, definitely. So every document, everything we use, it's always important to honor both of your parents.
So do most Mexicans then have, when they present their names, present all 3 names?
That's right. Yep, we present and most of us have 4 names, so we'll use it's different from the middle name that we have in the U.S. It's different. It's kind of like a second name. That's what we say in Mexico.
Okay, okay. And how does that work in the U.S. when you have these 2 last names you're taking around? Does that cause people trouble?
It's a little bit problematic sometimes. For example, you know, when you have a tab open and then you go and ask for it, and I say,
at the bar or?
Yeah, exactly. And you say, hey, can you have Gonzalez? And they're like, we can't find you. I'm like, what do you mean you can't find me? Like, no, we haven't. I'm like, okay, Vargas. And then, oh yeah, we got it. We thought Gonzalez was your middle name. And I was like, oh, okay, it's fine.
So file that middle name under 2 last names.
Exactly.
Yeah. So move the categories over 1.
Correct.
Sure. So this is a bit of a bittersweet time for you. You are wrapping up an 18-month assignment here in Grand Rapids. So in the next couple of weeks, some fond farewells, but saying goodbye to a lot of relationships that you've created here.
Yeah, it's always bittersweet and it's always difficult, but they say that we get better at saying goodbye. And that's what I've heard. I'm yet to see any progress on my end, but it's always difficult to see home, because something I found in the United States, I used to live in Sydney for a year, and then I moved back to Mexico where I lived all my life, and then I moved over here for a year and a half, and this has become truly home. Before you know it, you come in a stranger, you don't find yourself, you have culture shock, and now I think even harder than that is going to be the reverse culture shock, and not seeing Grand Rapids as home, and kind of having to say goodbye and farewell or see you later to your friends and people who were there every day for you. It's not an easy task.
Sure, sure. So tell us a little bit more about Atlas C.A.R.E. and the reason that they brought you to Grand Rapids.
Sure. Atlas C.A.R.E. is a fantastic organization based out of Washington, D.C., and it's a nonprofit that addresses international big social issues through an overseas training fellowship for nonprofit leaders from around the world. So the premise of Atlas C.A.R.E. is that talent is universally distributed, but opportunity is not. So what Atlas C.A.R.E. tries to do is to bring people who already have the passion, already have the experience, and they have the skills and aptitudes to be great social leaders, but perhaps would greatly benefit from working at a nonprofit, a huge nonprofit like, for example, let's say the United Nations Foundation, the American Red Cross, C.A.R.E., etc., and through a placement in the United States. So we bring our own experience from back home, from our own work and what we've done before. We bring it forward to the organization to help it grow and see things in a different perspective from abroad. But we also learn so much from the host organization, from our time in the United States, from the culture and the American people. And through this experience, we come back to our own home countries stronger and with much more knowledge of the nonprofit sector so we can do more social impact.
So I'm guessing with a name like Atlas, their focus really is on being a global operation and picking up talented nonprofit workers and sending them to different countries.
Correct. Yes, we're all nonprofit professionals who already have. You need to be completely fluent in English. You need to have a college degree. You need to have at least 2 years of experience in the field. Most of the fellows already have a master's degree or have already 5 years of experience accumulated. And like you said, Atlas Core, it's all about the world. And if you look at the Atlas Core logo, it's the world upside down. So you'll see the South America will be on the north and the North American region will be on the south. So it's this juxtaposition of saying, let's just look at the world differently. Who said that this was up and this was down? Why have we always been taught this way?
Shake things up a little bit.
Correct.
Yeah, fantastic. So it's actually folks from all over the world coming to do their work inside the United States.
Correct, yes. We come and serve in the United States. We serve American people or we serve people abroad. My placing is with Kids Food Basket, which is a local nonprofit in West Michigan that works to alleviate childhood hunger in Grand Rapids, Muskegon, and Holland. So my service here, I bring my experience back home with youth empowerment, but I bring it to a nonprofit that works with American people and American families here in the United States, particularly in West Michigan.
So tell us a little bit about the work that, on a day-to-day basis, the work that Kids Food Basket does.
Kids Food Basket does an amazing job at filling a gap that is quite needed in childhood development, because we find that 1 in 5 kids in Michigan are affected by food insecurity. Now, food insecurity means that they don't have consistent access to adequate food. So we mean, by adequate, we mean the right nutritious food that's going to make them thrive and develop their brain and their body to the full potential that they have. So what Kids Food Basket does is that we bring the supper and full nutritious supper to school so that they can take it back home every school day and make sure that they have all the nutrition that they need so they can come to school ready to learn.
And how many kids are you serving?
We're serving 7,000 kids every school day. 6,000 in Kent County, 500 in Muskegon, and 500 in Holland.
So how many people at Kids Food Basket are staff or employed staff, and how many are volunteers?
Right now we have 26 people on full-time staff in Kids Food Basket, and volunteers we have 250 volunteers every day, including weekends, in our in the sum of all the 3 locations.
So if any of our viewers are watching and inspired by this program, how do they get a hold of Kids Food Basket? Obviously not you, because you're packing your suitcases, but
correct.
The mission goes on.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's very easy to volunteer at Kids Food Basket and to be a part of it, be a volunteer, be a part of the community, because Kids Food Basket is really about bringing communities together to attack childhood hunger. So the easiest way to do that is to go online to Kids Food Basket website, which is kidsfoodbasket.org,
okay.
And they have a huge button that says volunteer. They make it as easy as possible so you can get engaged and be a part of the effort.
Sure. Now, your background in nonprofit is actually in the arts, not in hunger or food scarcity, but there's a lot of overlap in what you learned and what you're taking back. Can you share with us some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Back in Mexico, I started a nonprofit with 2 of my best friends to use artistic education for social change or to build community. So a lot of what we did was working with youth between 11 and 12 years old. We used the arts to be able to bring their stories out, because what we found is that arts had become, regretfully, a privilege rather than what it used to be, which was an education tool. It was part of everybody's culture. But regretfully, we come to a point where only those with a certain amount of money can access them, and that to us is a tremendous injustice. So what we did is we did artistic education programs with them. We showed them theater, literature, music, filmmaking, and they appropriated these means to be able to tell their own story and communicate between one another and start building that community where they're able to connect. So through that work with youth, Kids Food Basket saw that as an opportunity to bring this sort of skill set and this learning experience that I used to apply with our students back in Mexico, both our college volunteers that we were training to teach, and also the kids that we were working with. So I brought that experience to Kids Food Basket to develop a civic engagement program where youth of all ages were able to engage in different kinds of ways and understand their community in a deeper way.
Sure. Can you talk a little bit more about the changing understanding of philanthropy and civic engagement?
Absolutely. Philanthropy and civic engagement have been changing quite drastically in the last couple of years, because we're moving towards a model of solidarity, where people are looking into real-time social impact that's going to last longer, that's going to have that point where social justice is being made. Rather than meeting just social needs, we're actually looking into making a structural change. So as you can see in the United States has an amazing culture of philanthropy. I have been thoroughly amazed by the amount of people who want to volunteer, give a gift of time, treasure of talent, and this is something I hadn't seen before. The community here uplifts itself. It sees a social issue as something that citizens should be a part of in solving. So it's not only the government, it's not only businesses, it's the individual, the family, the faith community, the school, the people in the department at work. They get together and they say, let's do something about it. Chocolate hunger is huge, but we can be a part of the solution for it. So what I see there is a lot of potential to bring that kind of knowledge or that foundation of community back to Mexico so that we can start applying these lessons and build a stronger, more resilient community that takes care of itself and not only places the responsibility on the government.
Sure. So we were talking earlier about civic engagement, and you were hinting now at the sense that there's a different understanding of how people are involved in Mexico. Can you talk about that cultural phenomenon, how that works currently, and maybe towards what you're looking to change?
Yes. So what we're looking is that, particularly in Mexico, people didn't used to get committed to the community efforts. We used to have volunteerism, but mostly during crisis times. For when we have a hurricane, we have, for example, the '86 earthquake in Mexico City, huge surge of people coming out and helping the rescue efforts. The Mexican people are very generous as well, but it happens in a different way that it happens here in the United States.
It is not sustained.
It is not sustained. It is more solidarity in times of crisis, whereas in the United States we see that there's an intermittent the crisis community that comes together. For example, during Hurricane Katrina, we have a huge surge of people doing whatever was necessary from all corners of the United States to help. But also we see this model sustaining every day from people that are retired or young kids that are 5 years old. For example, at Kids with Basket, we have 33% of our volunteers are 18 years old or younger.
Wow.
So it's about 1/3 of our volunteers are young people. So what I see there is that capacity of rallying a lot of people into going beyond their current job or their daily occupation and being part of something grander, a bigger plan from the community to solve something that affects the whole community. Even if it's not hitting you directly, if you're part of the community, you're invested. A part can never be a community. The whole can never be well if one part is not well.
Sure, sure. So we were talking also a little bit about your hopes for down the road when you're looking to create new structures in Mexico, in Monterrey, where you'll be heading back shortly, and with the possibility of maybe getting some, maintaining some of your connections from Michigan and working on some kinds of, can you talk about that as a vision/dream?
Absolutely. I think that collaboration is one of those things that is usually said and used a little bit loosely, but real collaboration means a real investment. I mean, it actually means creating something conjointly where we're talking about partners side by side and not somebody ordering somebody else, or, you know, and it means symmetry in relationships. And I see that as a great possibility between Mexico and the United States, whereas socioculturally and historically, perhaps we haven't had the most cooperation or the most collaboration that we could have had. I see that in the young people right now a huge interest in starting to create more of a university level, a more deeper specialized kind of project where we can work in the community, and perhaps we can start thinking about bringing students from West Michigan into Mexico, but not in the sense of just providing aid or being part of a mission trip, but being actually implementing their education with Mexican students side by side and making a conjoined effort to make impact in their community.
So they're actually growing and not just being the great white northerners coming and doing for people, but actually having some mutuality in the whole experience.
Absolutely. It's about creating partnership where we're working side by side, where we're learning from each other, where we're creating something with both our hands, and we're not just taking something and adapting, or here, let me come and show you how to do it. This is what we did over there. So stand back and let me add your people, you know. So I see a huge hunger in young people nowadays, that they want to, both in Mexico and in the United States, that want to overcome that paradigm that we used to have in the last decades.
This is really inspiring stuff. We've run out of time, but I want to thank you for coming by the studio today and also wish you great success. I hope that here in West Michigan, we have given you as much as you have given our community. So, buena suerte and mucho éxito en el futuro.
Muchas gracias, Alan, y muchas gracias a la comunidad.
And for our viewers back home, stay tuned. We'll be coming back after a moment with some tips on American English, American culture, and a little bit of humor. And I think it's really inspiring to think about, you know, your parents came here from very humble beginnings, and now here's their son, you know, representing the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and setting a new trajectory for his kids. And so really, this option for upward mobility is really inspiring.
And I think you hit on something that, you know, even for my nephews and nieces, you know, they look up to Uncle Jorge as, you know, as an example.